serious and you'll get it. I'm the bank, come invest it. I get tracked and I have it. Money finds me attractive. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit. I'll do the work, yeah, I'll do it till it hurts. I'll invest in my future, I'll invest in the purse. I wanna be so rich, life changes, and I don't ever think about how much I just pay it. Yeah, it's the dream, the American dream. Live on top, don't stop till you got everything. But there's balance, cause this life is a challenge. You gotta live in the now while building up the talent. I'm the type to make commas, turn a profit. I'm the boss, Willy Wonka, but it ain't chocolate. Yeah, I'm just being honest, I work for this shit. I'm usually modest, but this beat lit, so I'm going off thoughtless, talking my shit. Yeah, I'ma be the hottest designer in drip. I'm just coming with the rawness. I gotta admit that I'm usually modest, but I work hard for my shit. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So keep working till it's hurting, cause that's when you start deserving everything you want, everything you need. Trust the process, yeah, you got this. Keep on working till you bleed. Yeah, I've been there, yeah, I've done that. 10 long years of breaking my back, but now I'm up here, never looking back. I got more dreams that I wanna go attack. Keep on going, keep on moving, never give up. I'll keep going, I can prove just what I'm made of. I got that.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Marko Yamashita Show. I am your host, Marko Yamashita. Of course, the only VTuber on YouTube that will bring you the most accurate, impartial, and fair analysis of everything happening in the VTuber world, and where I separate fact from opinion. And I hope you appreciate it, because I try very hard for all of the people who come and watch my streams to be able to do that and walk away with their own opinion. So thank you so much. Now tonight we are going to be discussing a very deep and ultimately important topic for the VTuber world as far as the industry goes, because the next couple of months is going to be pivotal for the major players in the VTuber industry to show us exactly what they're made of and whether or not they are resilient enough to be able to be a lasting industry in the world that is digital consumerism. So what I want to do is I want to present this to you as accurate analysis, given all the current indicators that are out there, and provide you with visual aids and also some opinion on what is being presented by other news outlets or analysis pages, so on and so forth. And we are also going to look at a few interesting nuggets of information where that most people do not really, they do not totally comprehend how the importance of actually looking into things before going out and saying, "Oh, Niji Sanji is dead. Niji Sanji is dead." You know, they have fallen and they're not going to get back up. That kind of thing. A lot of this, and we'll go into this, step by step. A lot of what you hear out there right now is a lot of people who are just completely ignorant of what is actually going on with these companies. All right, so let's dive into this immediately, because I am totally excited to finally be able to talk about some of these things. So first off, I want to tell you, the audience, what is not the cause of the quote unquote downfall of Niji Sanji and Any Color. What is not the cause are these three people that are on the screen right now. Okay, these three people did not have a significant impact upon Any Color's stock pricing. Okay, now they did have a marginal effect on consumer confidence as far as people who are looking for security within a corporate stock portfolio. However, as you'll see here in a bit, these three people ultimately did not have a significant factor, regardless of all the misdirection and slander and accusations that have been tossed out there. They did not have a significant effect on their stock value. Now, what I will tell you is that Niji Sanji, or Any Color, they are they're classified very interestingly as a consumer. I always say this word wrong. Cycle. How do you say it? Of course, I'm not gonna get the actual. There we go. Cyclicals. I always pronounce that wrong. They are what's called a consumer cyclicals. Yeah, there's too many freaking C's in that. All right. Now, what this is exactly is a consumer yeah, that word, are a category of stocks that rely heavily on business cycle and economic conditions. Consumer cyclicals include industries such as automotive, housing, entertainment, and retail. All right, the classifications of public stocks that fall under this category, they are going to see some very significant volatile swings within their stock price and their value, and it's going to rely heavily on what they are able to achieve per quarter. Okay, so I want you to understand that, because Covercore is a consumer cyclical, and if we come and we look over here, and we're gonna go over to Any Color. Any Color is classified, come on, as a consumer cyclical in the sector and industry of media and publishing in the Tokyo Stock Exchange. This means that they are heavily influenced by what quarter they're in, because you have different marketing, you have different you have people doing concerts, you're trying to book venues, you're trying to book around other people. You have consumerism out there, that where you have different times of the year, where Christmas, you have Valentine's Day, you have summer. They try to always do something big for the summer, that kind of thing. So they are heavily influenced. Their stock prices are heavily influenced on the time of year, what is happening around them, and what's happening within the greater market. Okay, so and we're gonna look even deeper into this here in just a little bit. But what I want everyone who watches to understand is this is one of the defining reasons why we have seen such a huge drop. Okay, now I want to come over here, and I want you guys to look at this chart. Okay, this chart right here, and I just want to make sure I'm able to pull that up here too, so I can see it on my screen. Okay, this chart here is a 1 year look at any color stock performance. Okay, now as you can see on the left here, we have between June and August, we have a huge hill followed by a tremendous drop. Okay, we need to look at why their stock suddenly just tumbled the way it tumbled. And there is more to the story besides just seeing a huge drop within value of a company's value on the market. Now, if we go and we look, and let me make sure I pull up the right one here. All right. I just want to make sure I pull up the right thing for you guys to look at. Alright, why aren't you showing? You worked when I was doing this earlier. There it is. Okay. So now I want you to look. This is dated July 14th, 2023. This is a notice that Niji Sanji are performing a stock split for their current stock. Okay, and the purpose of the stock split is to expand the investor base and improve liquidity within the company's stock by reducing the minimum investment per unit. Right, so as they split the stock, basically, if you hold the stock with the company, you say, okay, we're going to split the stock. That means you're going to have two stocks, and each half is going to be worth half as much as what the original stock was worth. So the only difference is, if you buy a stock at $100 and that stock goes up to $300, and that company does a split, that means you have two stocks for $150 each. And some investors like to be able to get their money back for the initial investment and then keep another stock, the other half of the stock in there for it to hopefully continue to grow. Or that gives, like they said, the market have the ability to buy in on a stock for a company at a lower rate. Now, if you come back and we look back at our chart here, after the stock split, 'cause that's where this big dive comes from. After the stock split, you're always going to have a shallow, bumpy bottom before the stock, recovers and it goes along its way. Now, there are multiple other factors that are involved in why this particular company has had such a rocky road coming along the way. And this again is basically what I was just talking about, so we'll skip over that. If you notice, and I've always said this, regardless of which company I'm talking about. Where one company goes, the other one will follow. All right. And the reason for that is because they are not only in the same sector, but they're also competitors. We have not seen, and at least in the last 3 to 5 years, we have not been able to see a definitive difference between companies as far as them being shackled together in a consumer mindset, because they hear VTubers, any color Niji, that's one reason why Niji Sanji tried to rebrand their VTubers as V-Livers, so the vernacular is close enough where people can relate. However, they are trying to separate themselves from their competition, and for a while they were able to do that. That's one reason why you end up having a stock split, is because they are doing extremely well and people are buying into it, right? However, as we've seen here, especially in the past 4 to 5 months now, things are slowly going down for each company, all right? And I'm not saying that everything I just said before this is worthless. It's not, because if you're looking at historical perspective, that is why Niji Sanji had a traumatic drop in their value. But that also brings things back in line with what their potential market value is. Whereas if they wouldn't have split their stock, they would have actually had a hard crash, and people would have lost out on the amount of money that they had invested in it when everything else was going to hell in a handbasket. We don't get that with CoverCore, right? Their immediate competition and CoverCore, they are on the cusp of literally being right back where they started when their stock went public. And if things don't turn around on CoverCore, there is the very real potential that CoverCore's value is going to sink below what their market value was when they first started. As you can see here by this chart here, year to date, in the last 4 to 5 months now, their stock value has dropped 38%. That is fairly significant when you have a company that's just out of their first year and they're supposed to be the defining company for leading the other VTuber agencies out there and being the industry standard for what they're doing. All right. Now, what we have here is that this is the Tokyo Stock Exchange Index, and as you can see here, year to date, people have said that the volatility of the stock exchange is the cause of why we are seeing their stock plummet. And that in itself is not true, because as you can see here, despite the fact that there have been peaks and valleys within the last year, by and large, the Tokyo Stock Exchange has largely been on the incline and increasing in value overall, showing a more healthy market within the Nikkei, which is their umbrella branch of the stock exchange. There have been some peaks and valleys, and specifically when the Bank of Japan rose interest rates, that did have an effect on stock prices in all of the markets over in Japan. However, the long and the short of it is that we are not seeing a decline in the Tokyo Stock Exchange where it could be justified in saying, oh, it's just the market, because it's not just the market. That is overgeneralizing what is actually happening. Now, I always tell people, and you guys have probably heard me say this a lot, where one company goes, the other one will follow. Well, here is the Topex, the Tokyo Exchange, along with CoverCore, Anycolor, and two of their competitors that roughly fall within the same branch of either industry or sector. Okay. Now, what we see here in the last month, we see that CoverCore has taken the biggest hit over the last month, dropping 25% of their value. And then you have the other ones here that 3 out of the 4 followed the trend. The only one that does not follow the trend is the TV Tokyo Holdings. The other 3 more or less follow the same trend. But the main difference is that CoverCore has dropped more significantly and faster over the last month than Anycolor. And people have not been paying attention to that. You have to pay attention to that, because if you don't, you're just generalizing and saying, oh, well, Anycolor is done. Well, no, because CoverCore is doing a lot worse than Anycolor, by stock value price, with the amount that they are losing every day and every year. If you look at an even wider margin or spectrum here, over the year to date, you do see that Anycolor does have a significant drop here in March 2024. Now, we'll talk about this significant drop within a little bit. However, I do want to state first that the Topax for the stock exchange is going one direction, and all the other companies are going in a separate direction. And that's when you start seeing that a sector is in a slump, because you either start getting a bunch up, like what we see here with Anycolor and CoverCore and Toei Animation Company. And then you also have what I consider to be more or less the baseline, which holds, they've been relatively holding their value here with the TV Tokyo Holdings. Okay, but when you look at the actual sector and the industry that these companies are bundled together in, you see that there is a trend and a pattern here that goes along with them over the past 5 months. Now, I want to come over and real quickly, let's see here. Where are you? This one. Okay. So, I want to go a little bit further here. Go back. Okay, there we go. So we'll take a look at this slide here real quickly. Now, with our last graph that we saw, there was that significant drop in March. That particular Umberto, welcome to the chat. Welcome. Thank you for dropping in, my friend. Now, when we see when we look at that and we look at what the cause was for a specific drop or a change within a company itself, you want to be able to look at what were the affecting reasons, or what were things like during that time. Well, for this particular case, we do have the fact that they had their financial results for the quarter, and the results were not as expected. They did not. They were less than expected results for their fiscal year in the third quarter. That is partially the reason why that we see a drop in that. Another reason why we see a drop is because the Japanese yen to dollar ratio has been so horrendously inflated for Japan over the last year. And we are literally looking at the highest value of yen to dollar to yen. We're the last time Japan has seen rates this lopsided was March 28th, 1986. All right, that's the last time that Japan has seen a yen to dollar ratio of 180 to $1 US. 1986. We're talking like decades. And if you look back at 1986, the 70s into the 80s was called, they called them one of the lost generations because of inflation. They were in a heavy recession. I mean, we're talking like people being completely out of work, and inflation was rampant over there. It finally eased up in the 90s before it started coming back. But even with after, I think it was like the mid 90s, there was still a generation there that just could not get jobs, and they were working 3 or 4 jobs. Well, they're still working 3 or 4 jobs, but that's why that's why we look at this, right? And yesterday, the yen hit that mark of 180 to $1 US, and it finally took that amount of inflation for the Bank of Japan to finally step in and say, okay, we're going to do something about this. And now we're seeing more reasonable rates of 156, 160, somewhere around there. Okay, but this is also significant because the inflation, when you get inflation like this, especially over in Japan, investors over there are going to pull out their money in more volatile stocks and then invest them into things that have a better, less volatility, or they have a better return on investments. They're less inclined to take risks on companies like Anycolor and Corp because of the volatility of what their income and value could be, because it's seasonal. It relies on so many different factors. You're talking about merchandise, you're talking about live shows, you're talking about online revenue, ad revenue, partnership revenue, all those types of things. Okay, so I want you to understand just how significant it is for the dollar and the yen to have an impact like this. And it was announced earlier today in the Wall Street Journal that Japan finally intervened to prop up the yen after hitting a multi-decade low against the dollar on Monday. The yen weakened to around 160, and it actually spiked up to 180. Very, very, very. It just hit this, kissed that ceiling before it dropped back down. But they're also citing that they are not. They're likely not done yet with doing whatever they're doing behind the scenes in order to make the yen stronger and more competitive throughout the world currency. It's as it states here in the article, excuse me, is unlikely that this will be the last time Japan intervenes in the currency market this year, given that the U.S. interest rates are likely to remain high. There's also still the outside chance of the banks in the United States, messing around with interest rates, which could make another run on the dollar versus the yen. Let's see here. Let's move on here. Now, as I stated already with this slide here, the announcement of their quarterly reports had a significant impact on their stock prices and value. Now, people automatically took the result of their third quarter profits as the sign that Niji Sanji has jumped the shark and that they're done. They've had it. They're lost as a company. There is no hope for them. All this hate and negativity started pouring out. And people were mocking the company themselves. However, I do want to. I do want to show you I do want to show you something in response to that. Could Hololive open up in Russia, India, or some other BRICS nation? I would imagine that Hololive would not open up a branch in Russia. India. When you're talking India, you're gonna have to really. We think broadcasting restrictions on VTubers and other companies from Japan are very strict. Or like China, for example, that they're very strict. But when you start talking about like India, you start having to deal with companies that the Ministry of Ethics and Religion and stuff like that, where they're heavily regulated by a morality type of legislation, and I don't think that it would be too restrictive, and that you would have to jump through a lot of hurdles for them to do something like that. All right, so we know that the stock prices plummeted after their third quarter, right? Now, if we go over here. Come on. Ash, I hate you, OBS. There we go. Okay, so LogMe Finance. LogMe Finance is a company that I thought I had that pulled up here. What is LogMe Finance? All right. What is this site I'm looking at? Well, we will tell you right now. All right. This site is a site that brings financial results briefings with full transcripts of earning releases for briefing, early earnings release briefing for all investors. All right, they basically curate the various types of financial reports or updates or investment details and stuff like that. You know, all the little nuggets that most people find extremely boring, they collect. All right. Now, this one here was released shortly after their earnings report here, and they after they did their third quarter report, this is a briefing on how their fourth quarter is looking. Okay. And as we see in some of these documents here, third quarter, came in less than expected. They did not see that year-on-year increase like they wanted. However, they are still looking at meeting or surpassing expectations for their final quarter of their fiscal year. So, according to their balance sheet here, originally we expected to post the largest sales and profits in the fourth quarter of this fiscal year due to the schedule of commerce events and corporate projects, and we are currently working to achieve those goals. This was the financial results, and we've covered these results here for the third quarter. And as we look at what is being reported here as a whole, they acknowledge that Niji Sanji EN fell sharply over the year. Last year's third quarter sales were large due to a very good sales and certain commercial products, but the third quarter of this fiscal year, sales of such products landed on a lower note than compared to last year, and this led to a year-on-year decline in sales. And we've talked about that, about how Niji Sanji EN was essentially the one thing holding back their sales projections. Now, I'm not going to go through the entirety of this report for you guys, but I do want to... Yeah, right. It's right here. Okay. So they explained that the results of the debut of Niji Sanji EN are slightly behind the original schedule. This is due to many factors of EN and domestic operations, but one of the common factors is lack of training and other system building. All right. Now, we all understand that is PR speak. For, we have some major lapses in communication and also understanding of the contracts that their talent are signing and what they can and cannot do. All right. So we all understand that that's basically what they're saying. As a countermeasure, I believe, or Tazumi here believes that we need to establish a solid compliance training and workflow that nurtures and discerns human qualities in the schedule from audition to debut. In other words, like I just said, we're talking about, like, okay, this is what the rules are. This is what's in your contract. If you break these rules that are in your contract, we have the right to terminate you. That's basically what that means. That's just PR speak, right? Now, as they go on to say, they go on to say that in Japan they offer the virtual talent agency, the VTA. However, there is not a VTA for Niji Sunji still, and like they have been saying that they want to have implemented, and by now they still haven't done it. But they will continue to strengthen our training system and produce VTubers that can blah 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 blah. This is basically saying we have not put this together for Niji Sanji EN, and we don't know when we will, because it costs significantly more to hire those types of people for an English speaking audience and a market, as opposed to Japan by a larger margin. So who knows when that's actually going to happen, if it will ever happen at all, right? I know they can't open up for China, but and that's the thing. They've dipped their toes into Korea before. Especially like Niji Sanji, especially they've dipped their toes in Korea before, and there have been some other smaller agencies that have tried to test the waters in the Korean market, and I think that there's just so much competition in the entertainment industry as is, both online and offline, that it's unless you have something that is a very significant hook, and to go along with them being more than just the VTuber, it's very difficult to break into that market. Not to say that it's impossible, because I don't know how that stuff works for Korea. All right, but I do think that that's part of the reason why they kind of shy away from that, and they have turned their eyes more towards the English speaking market, because if you look at where the company's at, since right now, especially right now, the yen to dollar ratio is just so significant. Being able to bring in US dollars into your agency is basically more profitable than, say, like, them getting somebody that spends 100 yen. Like, right, so like 100 yen, would not translate over to, would be less than $1 US. But if you have a listener spend $1 US, they're making 156 yen for every dollar that we spend from the United States. If you look at the euro, just look at how the euro is against the yen. That they are just as weak against the euro as the US dollar. You look at Australia. I mean, there's less of a margin in between them, but they're still weak against the dollar there too. Look at the Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar, they're weak against them too. So for every single dollar or euro that the English world and audience spends, they're making a surplus on their side by pulling in more yen for their product, because they're reaching out to an English speaking audience. And that's why a lot of people, you could actually spend less money by using like a VPN and then sending your super chat off as in yen, because then you could then drop more. You can make it look like you're dropping more money, even though you were actually spending less money than what you would spend if you were to do it in dollars. Like, if I dropped 500,000 yen, that's not going to translate to $500. That's going to be significantly less than that. So that's why you'll see a lot of people, they'll use a VPN and then they'll dial into whatever VTuber they're watching, and then they'll send it in yen, and then they'll come back and say, okay, I'm back, and they may live in the United States or somewhere alike like that, but they do it that way because they're able to spend less but still be able to give as much as they want to give, and they'll get more bang for their buck, I guess you would say. Talent wrangling. Now that non-complete clause are illegal, can one talent work for two corps? I think that there is still the I'm not sure. I have not looked at any the specific law or regulation or anything like that, whether or not there's even anything legally that that can be used as a premise for this. But I do think that there is still the matter of conflict of interest. Especially if you are not able to fulfill the minimum amount required for working for that company based upon your contract. Like if you're looking at like signing with any color, for example, they ask that you are available to stream for 4 to 5 days out of the week. And they're looking for a X amount of hours. Now, if we look at things extremely carefully, we can see that there are already many people who are working for themselves, and they are still being either VTubers or an alternative streamer that is getting an income using a different name while they're working for the company that they're working for. Mel, which is now Rika, she did that. Noelle is another one that I know for sure has done that. I have actually seen a very limited amount of activity with Fauna. Fauna has dropped a few like very interesting and surprising amount of content on an alternate account that used to be her a long time ago. And of course we have seen Callie and Kiara. They have their own thing that they're doing. And it's not directly competing with the alternative company, but as long as they're not branding themselves as Covercore or Hololive, I don't know if there would actually be anything that would hold them back from that. But I would be hard pressed to say, if you try to work for Covercore and Hololive at the same time, you would more than likely not be able to fulfill your the required amount of output for each company to be able to work for both of them at the same time. So let's move on here for a little bit. So yeah, let's go back to this real quick. So we see that that they have acknowledged the difficulties for Niji Sanji EN. However, they are still looking at a significant amount of content, both with merchandise and otherwise, that have not been reported on the third quarter report, and their fourth quarter report is due. Let's see, April, May. I believe it's in March, April, May, June. Yeah. So their fourth quarter and yearly physical report will be out here in June. Now, why is that significant? Well, for a number of reasons. If we look at any color here, well, actually, we'll go to any color. Okay, we'll go to Hall Live. Where'd it go? There you go. All right. So if we look at the earnings calendar here, so CoverCore's earnings will be public on May 13th. Okay, that's the first hurdle that we have here. May 13th will be one of the deciding factors on how VTuber companies and agencies will be able to look at things and whether or not it's going to be good or bad for the VTuber industry. And why do I say that? Well, again, CoverCore and AnyColor are the two public markers that give investors and the alike the ability to see whether or not that this industry, as volatile as it is worth investing into. Now, if CoverCore underperforms, which there has been no indication that CoverCore is going to underperform. In fact, they revised their full year earnings forecast back in February 8th. And they actually revised it to be more than expected. So they are supposed to be supposedly going to be either landing as projected, if not more. That's what they're anticipating for their last quarter and for their yearly earnings. Now CoverCore is in May, so we will, as long as they have a positive report, we'll likely see both of their stocks rise and increase. All right. Whereas, right now, they are trading today. So right now, if we look at the last month, they've been down for the last month. If you look at the last year, if we look at this last year, CoverCore is literally only 7.28% or 117 yen away from being at the price they were when they first went public. So it took a little bit more than a year to be right back where they started. And they haven't had any significant splits or anything else like that happen with their stocks. So CoverCore has to have a very good earnings report this coming month, or in about 2 weeks. They have to have a very good earnings report in order for their stock not to slip below the initial asking price that they were when they went to the public market. Because once they slip below that number, they are literally going to start losing money, because their stock is going to be worth less than what it was when they first started. that's a negative return on investment. So it is very dangerous for them right now, and they actually need to be able to report that they have at least met expectations with their forecast and are able to provide a structured and coherent sales pitch as far as what they are going to do for this coming year in order to continue to either increase the amount of investment or the amount of revenue that they're bringing in, as well as what they're currently doing to innovate within this particular field. Now, again, we do have to take this with a couple of grains of salt because, like I said when we first started, because of the field that the sector that they fall in for the sector and industry that both of these companies fall in, consumer cynicals are pretty volatile to begin with, and they heavily rely on business cycle and economic conditions. And if we continue to see the CPI, the cost of consumer price index, if they continue to see missed expectations and continue to see that rise in Japan, which this was on 4/18, which was just 10 days ago, and the yen continues to tumble, which right now it has at least somewhat stabilized, but where it's already starting to rise again here. But if it hits 160 again or higher, that's going to be setting a pretty large precedent that the Bank of Japan is going to have to do something extremely drastic in order to bring this down. And the problem with bringing it down is that you start you create a huge sell-off because people are trying to cash out while the getting's good, and then you end up spinning the economy into a depression. Companies start folding, so on and so forth, any of that kind of stuff. So they have to be very conservative about what they exactly do in order to keep the yen to dollar ratio from breaking 160 again, because you do not want that higher than 160. 155 used to be the benchmark, and they just blew right over that here this year, so we'll see, right? But let's see here. Let's move on. Okay, so we'll close you. So again, where one goes, so does the other is always something I've highly stressed with these types of things. And when you look at the actual, if you look at the actual results of other companies that are within the same sectors or industries as Anycolor and Cover Corp, you start seeing what the actual trend of that sector is, and just how drastically they are affected by like things like the market, the yen value, performance, outcomes, so on and so forth. There is one company that I did not include in this graph here, that as soon as their quarterly report dropped and the end of their fiscal year dropped, there was an immediate, it was basically like somebody shot them out of a cannon, and their stock just did a 180. And in fact, that particular company was responsible for all the Like a Dragon games for Sega. And once they dropped, just how well they did for that quarter with the games that they had produced, their stock just completely shot up like a cannon. So it's not unheard of that a company like Any Color or like Cover or like that Sega Holdings, as soon as their report drops, you automatically see a 180. Right now, if what they're reporting here is beyond PR speak, and especially for Any Color, because once again, this was a briefing that we just looked at. This right here, this is primarily a briefing of what their expectations are and what their early results are looking at for Any Color. So long as Any Color is able to produce a positive outcome in June, when they report their fourth quarter profits and also their fiscal year report, we should see a turnaround in both Any Color and Cover Corp. Now, Any Color is going to get an indirect bounce solely off of Cover Corp's physical report that comes out on, what did I say it was? May 13th. And then all eyes are basically going to be looking at Any Color after Cover Corp's results are out. Because if Cover Corp posts positive numbers, or they're within expectations, and then Any Color comes around and they have a disappointing, or they are underperform more than what they did on the third quarter, then we will know that they are indeed a company in trouble. Typically, people do not consider things to be in panic mode unless there is a sharp decline in a company. And as we've looked at so far, there it is, Sega Holdings. As we looked at so far, there are multiple factors that are affecting the stock prices of not just Any Color, but also Cover Corp. So it is very disingenuous for any streamer to go out there and automatically say, "Oh yeah, you see this drop? You see this drop? Oh yeah, that's they're done. They're donezo." Yeah, if you look at where they are right now, Cover Corp has lost more money this year than Any Color. I mean, so what does that say about Cover Corp, right? So, but yet Cover Corp has not had a disappointing quarter yet. And that's the big thing. They have not had a disappointing quarter yet. So, I mean, what does that really say about where they are as far as company and staying power within the industry? Well, it doesn't say much, because unless you have two disappointing quarters in a row, then you can't really say a company's in trouble unless they are reporting that their revenue is less than expected for 2 straight quarters, or they're in the red for one of those said quarters. Would I buy the dip? Well, here's the thing. If I were able to invest in the market, I would actually wait until probably a day or two before Cover Corp announces their results, and then buy. But that would only be if I was gonna invest in the company short term. Because I would be very, if I were to like gamble, and roll with it and say all or nothing, I would buy into both companies. I would stay vested with them through May and then into June, and then depending on what happens with Any Color's physical reports. If it's disappointing, I would immediately sell. If it's not, I would see how far, how high, the turnaround would be before I would sell. Now there are a couple of different tools and indices and other types of things that help investors, try to strategically place their, when to buy and when to sell. And right now, everyone is still calling both of these companies a strong sell. But the thing of it is, if you look at both companies here, that they're actually considered underperformers now because of the amount that they have dropped. If you look at CoverCore here, they're still calling them a strong sell. But if you look at their year performance, they are basically getting down to back to where they started. And actually there was a large volume of trading here in March. But that was, I believe, that was during their HoloFest. But then after their HoloFest, they've continued this to continuously drop. But I would wait until a day or two before their physical report were to come out, and then I would invest in it. Because if it's going to continue to drop the way it has, then there's no sense in buying into them now unless you see the stock stabilize to where you would have a reasonable amount of confidence that it's not going to depreciate any further than what it is. And the same goes with Any Color. Any Color, again, they have had a number of reasons why we see the stocks drop. One of them was the fiscal report where they underperformed. The second reason is because of the Bank of Japan changing their policy on negative interest rates, which this was March 19th. All right, this came out March 19th. That's when they changed their interest rate policy, right? Now, what do we come over here? The drop right here, the sell-off happened right before March 19th. It happened on the 14th. And that's because they were the Bank of Japan was showing signs that they were going to end the negative interest rates on their loans. So there was a huge sell-off right before that was officially announced and that policy was put into place. So once again, they are not necessarily you're not necessarily seeing this sell-off as a sign of the retribution, as the internet has been putting it, against the company. They literally sold off here on the 14th, which is a Thursday, because of the upcoming announcement that the Bank of Japan was going to end their negative interest rate policy, and and that has a direct effect on people who are, taking out money or that putting they're doing investment at borrowing against their assets in order to get make a profit off of the money that they're borrowing from, with not having to pay interest on the amount of money that they're borrowing. So and that again was updated on the 19th. The 19th is a Friday. Well, what when those types of announcements come on a Friday, they usually come out at a time where they the bad news always comes out on a Friday. That's just the way it is, because you don't have you have 24/7 news coverage with every company, right? Or with every country that's out there. You always have 24/7 news coverage. But if you are going to be doing making a decision that is largely unpopular, or is going to have a negative impact, you always release that news on a Friday towards the end of the news cycle for the week. That way, you're not having, every single news outlet sitting there slamming you, because people are not going to be paying attention as much towards the news over the weekend unless something traumatic happens, That's just the way that they've always operated. And when this news came out on a Friday, and people traded off before that, because they knew that the combination of the yen, a weak yen, and a strong dollar, in combination with them ending the negative interest rate policy, had a traumatic effect on their economy as a whole. And that's when people pull the money out of companies like Anycolor and CoverCore, because they're considered higher risk companies that may not necessarily provide you with the stable amount of results for any given time period, especially when one company underperforms. If they underperform, you're not going to keep your investment in them, because until you have reasonable confidence that you are either going to break even or maybe earn a small profit off of it. These, in a big sense, a lot of these companies, they aren't long-term investment companies. You're looking at these companies that are highly influenced on markets and season and different events that are happening out there. You're largely looking at, okay, what is going to be the high peak for this company, and try to get in when it's low, and then sell it when it hits its peak. So you get the most amount of investment back, return on investment. Anycolor is a prime example, and I believe CoverCore was also like this, where their third quarter was relatively weaker than their last quarter. I believe, and I would have to pull up their I would have to pull up their physical report here again, but I believe CoverCore was pretty close to what Anycolor was performance-wise overall. The only difference is that their English branch did not significantly or adversely affect their bottom line profit, because their English branch continues to perform as expected or above expectations when it comes to revenue coming into the company. Are these tech stocks? Yes, they are. Well, technically they're well, okay. Technically, they are in media and entertainment. are media and publishing. That's the industry that they're in. Okay, that's the industry that they're tied to, because they are looking at publishing multimedia online as a company producing media, and then of course they're a digital media company when it comes to VTubers being themselves. So they're not technically a tech company, but they do utilize tech. Now, if they were to innovate themselves in a way that they could be a tech company, that would be something different. Like, so Sega Sammy Holdings here. This is the group that this is the investment group that the Like a Dragon series is comes from, and then they also do pachinko, right? They're solely software, and then they also do produce software for the pachinko machines in Japan. But they're branded as the same thing, with the industry being media and publishing, with consumer cynicals as their sector. And this is despite the fact that they primarily produce video games and then also pachinko. They also do offer entertainment related content and services like consumer and arcade games, toys, animation, as well as develop and sell amusement machines and animated films, blah 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 blah. So technically they're the same thing, but they also produce content that beyond just being known as a video game developer or a pachinko machine company, so on and so forth. But let's see here. Okay, so let's move on here for a second. So do I in my opinion, do I think that these two companies are in trouble? I will say this with an extreme amount of skepticism, all right? The next 2 to 3 months are going to be extremely telling for the VTuber industry. And if any color underperforms, if they underperform for a second straight quarter, which there is no indication, at least publicly, that they have given, if they underperform and their earnings revenues are less than expected, I think that their company could be in trouble. Now, if we go back and look at what they are talking in this document here, we'll go down to like we stated earlier. Based upon the above, I'd like to explain our progress against this fiscal year's forecast and our current efforts. Progress through the third quarter what was slightly above plan, but generally in line. When they say above plan, that doesn't mean that means that their cost was higher than expected versus their income, but was generally in line. This is the same situation for both sales and profits. As for the fourth quarter, though the measures are through the measures originally planned, we hope to post sales and profits that exceed expectations and firmly achieve full year results. in addition, we believe that one long-term initiative is the need to expand the number of VTubers. So what we're seeing with Niji Sanji is that they are still going to go with the philosophy of quantity over quality. That, and I think that is very detrimental towards the company as a whole, because if you're having trouble with the amount of VTubers that you currently have, as far as hierarchy, structure, a proper education and training on expectations and fulfillment of your contract. If you're having trouble with interdisciplinary issues of people not following the correct procedure, if you have people that are trying to circumvent their managers or the person that is in charge of them, and basically not following the process that is supposed to be in place or implemented, you are essentially saying, okay, well, we're gonna just hire a bunch of people, and then it's their job to make as much money as possible, and if we lose a few on the way, well, that's fine. It's basically ignoring the squeaky wheel when you should really be addressing the squeaky wheel, because if that wheel is addressed, then the entirety of the chair is going to work a lot better, or the entirety of the cart is going to work a lot better, because they're all in line with what they should be doing. That's why we see with companies like Anycolor, they tend to post expectation, meet their expectations and the results of their expectations. But they could be doing so much better if they were actually addressing the things that are holding them back. And right now, what we're seeing is that they're seeing, and this is part of what was echoed in their quarterly report. They have an issue with the EN branch that they have not outwardly been able to show that they have been working to resolve, and they are, just content with, hiring a bunch of new talent, and then if they come and go, they come and go. We'll just hire more talent. And it's kind of like how you have like 20 different Conjuring movies out there now, and you have diminishing return on all the Conjuring movies, or the Paranormal Activity movies. The first one everyone freaked out about, and then they did the second, and then they did the third, and by the fourth movie, it was just so it was so much of the same thing over and over and over again. You're like, why am I even watching this? That's kind of where Niji Sanji is getting to with what they're doing. They have not shown a commitment to fixing what is happening with the EN branch. And I'm not just talking about, the working conditions or hierarchy or the power struggle or the any kind of cliques that could be there. I'm talking about from a top to down type of from philosophy on how things should be going, and on a corporate level, down to the hierarchy that should be followed in order to release content, whether it be live content, streamed content, uploaded content, whatever, to being able to facilitate getting the hardware or the software or the designs and illustrations required in order for a VTuber to do their job, they have not shown that level of commitment yet. And that's the downfall of why people think that Niji Sanji is, in trouble. But so far, according to their investors, they have put on a face that said, well, our investors, don't worry. We know that we had anticipated that we were going to underperform on the third quarter. We anticipated that was part of our, part of our forecast. We fell shorter, a lot shorter than expected, but that's still within, generally in line with what we were predicting, and we predict to have a solid fourth quarter at the end of the year. That's basically what they're selling right now. And as an investor, I would be wary about this, but if I were to be able to play the market, knowing that their stock has dropped this far from where it was a year ago, I would buy. I would roll the dice and see whether or not I come out ahead if I were to invest in them. That would only be if CoverCore also has a positive physical report, which there's no reason to not believe that. But we'll see. See here. Should every corporal hire a former hire for? See, I don't think even with somebody like that would necessarily be good for a company, because what we're dealing with here, I mean, we're dealing with a generation of people and that are streamers or in entertainment itself, in your 20s or 30s, and you're dealing with people who are generally not going to follow the rules because they think that they know everything, and you give them popularity and influence, which is what they essentially have done. You give them popularity and influence, and then what you end up having is you end up having them controlling a certain segment of your population that can go out there and be upset and outwardly display their frustration with whatever, because they're going to support that person. If you have a million followers on that are on the internet, and then something happens to that person and they're no longer with the company, and they make a huge scene about it, like Salin did, what's the result going to be? The result's going to be you're going to have a million people out there that are going to be protesting on her behalf, and she's going to be able to stand there with her arms crossed, saying, you screwed me over, and I think you did me wrong, and now this is your punishment for it." And it could not, it could or could not be her fault to begin with, but they're going to take the talent side over the company side any day. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a corporate guy. Okay, I'm not a corporate guy. However, I do have to look at what the opposite side has on their defense on their behalf before I make a judgment call or decision on whether or not the individual has something solid to stand on. And I'll go back to I will go back to what I said before. I just threw this picture together like right before the stream, so it's not It is not my best work, but I thought it was funny. I was just playing around before I started. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. To go back and sort of beat a dead horse here already. Yeah, we had Dumb Eye and small big lawyer here come out, and they spent hours and hours and hours just constantly advocating for her and saying just how wrong Any Color had treated her, and just how bad of a company they are, and just how ruthless of an industry it is, and that she was taken advantage of, and this and that over and over and over. Big Lawyer even supposedly, brought out a supposed, mostly unsigned contract, which, come on. You're supposed to be a multi-million-dollar, attorney here, and you let something like that slip out of your mouth? Come on. Mostly unsigned. It's like, okay, whatever. All right. So, he busts out this mostly unsigned, contract, right? That supposedly was from Any Color themselves. And assumedly that contract was real and legit, all you had to do was flip to a certain page. And on that page is the requirements that the talent must follow in order to release digital content on the channel. And part of the procedure was that the digital content had to be submitted to their manager for approval before it's uploaded and released. Okay? So that right there, this is from Big Lawyer here, who literally presented evidence that she broke her own contract, assumedly that this contract did come from Any Color, because it was mostly signed. Mostly signed, my God. He provided direct evidence that she broke the own terms of her contract. So it's like, you have to know, and as a content creator, you have to know what your limits are, in order for you to be able to publish content on the platform that you are producing stuff on. And, you cannot say that ignorance is bliss, because assumedly, if this was a contract that was generic, yet was in line with every other Any Color contract that, were fully signed as opposed to mostly signed, she broke the terms and agreements that she put her own name, signature to. So what does that say? That says that the original termination notice that Any Color put out was a factual termination based upon her direct actions that have produced her own termination. And the fact of the matter is, her termination had little to no actual effect on Any Color stock anyway. Because by the time that her termination was a public circus, their physical quarter was mostly over anyways. There was nothing happening towards the end of that physical quarter, which would have merited any kind of revenue that could have made up for, their less than expected, report for that quarter. But it was already anticipated to begin with, so you're not necessarily able to point at her and saying this is she's the reason. What they did to her, it was awful, and it shouldn't have happened, and this is proof that they're a black company. No, it's not. It really is not. I mean, if you look at any of the performance summary for any of the previous years for any of the companies, you always see a drop off here, typically on the third to fourth quarter, and you always see that drop off happen. Okay. But most companies typically have a strong fourth quarter because they're leading into they're at the end of their year, so that's the only time that they have the ability to give a final push towards adding value to your company before you have to report to your stockholders how their company is doing. So you have to. There's always that expectation that you have. You're going to have a couple of bad quarters. Again, that's why they are called consumer cyclical, because they are a company that it relies heavily on the business cycle, the economic conditions. That they, if both of those things are down, especially when you end up seeing that the field that all your competitors are in, you're gonna end up seeing things like that to begin with. Where one goes, so does the other, and that's the way it always has been. We have only once seen Any Color and Cover Core start breaking away from each other. Okay. And even then with the divide here, in December 2023, they still had a matching amount of activity. If you were to put these graphs in line with each other, they would still follow a relevant trend, even though you see the separation here between the companies. Now, Cover Core is in a much better position than Any Color. There is definitely a widening gap here between the two companies, but once you start seeing it narrow off like this, especially when you start seeing that the companies are crossing each other, price wise, that is a cause for concern, because if both of these companies are trading in the same direction, and you are seeing the prices dropping, and you see a lot of people that are people are continuously selling and they're not buying, it could spell a pretty significant problem for the company. So let's kind of hope that when Any Color produces their annual report here on the 13th, that we do see a positive result for them. Because I mean, again, there's no reason why there shouldn't be. However, there's also a number of projects that are still currently in in the process of being finished. One of them being Hollow Earth, for example. I mean, if they say like they have a weaker than expected fourth quarter, and and they stumble into their new fiscal year, and even if it's positive but weaker than expected, and then they drop a huge donut, as far as Hollow Earth. I mean, that can be a significant negative and adverse factor towards their company value. Like I stated before, they have spent $23 million in development costs for Hollow Earth. And if all we're gonna have is a glorified room that we can build something in, and a glorified 3D view maybe of concerts that you could see just as well on YouTube, was that money really worth spending? You know what I'm saying? So, a lawyer's job is to advocate. Now, I agree with that. I agree that lawyers are meant to advocate, according to what the written law is, and advocate on behalf of their client. That being said, if the lawyer does not read the law that he's supposed to be advocating about, like a certain lawyer hasn't done, there's something to be said that I would not want that person to be my lawyer and advocating for me if he is not going to be able to argue Japanese law because he doesn't know what it is. When the average guy has a better understanding of what the law actually says versus somebody who supposedly has a law degree, they would not be my first pick to advocate for me. Even if certain laws transcend countries and borders and whatever. If they don't know the environment that they are arguing in, and what is allowed and not allowed, and as part of their process and procedures, I would feel very hesitant. I'd rather have somebody else, even if they only slightly speak English. I'd rather have but let's say let me just say this. Do I think these two companies are in trouble? As of right now, I do not think that they are in trouble, but I do not like the direction that things are going. When if the Bank of Japan does not do more to intervene with what is happening with the yen to dollar ratio, it's going to be concerning enough that we may see like the bottom fallout of the Japanese economy, and they are just now starting to see some positive light at the end of the tunnel, but that could literally be a mirage. I'm just kind of cycling through some of the articles right now. and right now, most technical analysts are still saying that the current drop is a fake out, and that there may be more inflation with the Japanese yen before something actually stabilizes it again. But it's something that we really have to kind of keep an eye on. Something you really have to monitor in order to find out what is happening. So in summary, I would just like to say that in my opinion, I think that there's still a lot of factors that will also play into what happens with any color and cover core. They are not out of the woods by any stretch of the means, but it will be a positive first step when cover core releases their physical fourth quarter report and their annual physical report. So long as they are able to produce a positive result from that, I do believe that we will start seeing a turnaround with at least the company value on the general market. Now, if any color follows that with a disappointing or a less than expected report, that is going to be the time that you see you'll likely see people starting to panic. So that's something definitely to look out for. May 13th, the cover core report will drop, and we'll get our hands on that, and we'll look at it and see what they have to say. One of the things I did appreciate with their quarterly reports as well as their annual reports, it does give you an idea of what they're looking at doing for the following year, or this coming year, and also you'll get an idea on what they're likely going to be throwing out there in front of you. I said it for 4 or 5 months. I said, watch out that cover core is going to be throwing merch at you left and right and trying to get you to buy it. And that's exactly what they did. They also said that they wanted to increase their collaboration efforts with other companies and loan out their IP, and that's why we're seeing a lot of of times that they'll be playing a free to play game, or pay to win game rather, and that's because they have those kind of collaborations with those companies. So that's why I was kind of disappointed when I saw that Roboco was going to stream tomorrow morning, or for her it would be evening, but she's going to be streaming a what's basically an AFK idle type game that has like 20 million buy me mechanics type thing. It's just, it was just overly, they have packages as small as like 7 cents, and they go all the way up to like $59, or something like that. And I'm just sitting here looking at my screen, and I'm having like 20 different things flashing at me saying, buy me, buy me. And I'm like, no, So I'll watch for her, but I'm not gonna spend the money to buy anything. Will Hololive collab help us Stellar Blades PR. I do not know enough about Stellar Blade to give an opinion on that. That's one thing I have not. I've largely tried to not buy in to all the merch and collab things that Hololive has been doing this past year. So and that goes for almost everything. I mean, even for me, like the I only play two. Well, yeah, I play two free to play games. One of them is Honkai Star Rail, and I can't remember what the name is of the other one. Well, I still do play Mahjong Soul too, but that's not like play to win. That's more of just buy spend money to have a waifu as your avatar type thing. Yeah, I can't remember what the other name of the game is that I play. But anyways, yeah, I mean, now I will say that I will be playing Stellar Blade. Wow, they're only they only have a 7 out of 10. I mean, the Stellar Blade looks really nice. Oh, that's why I haven't been paying attention to it. It's a PS5 game. Oh yeah, since I don't own a PS5 to begin with, that's why I haven't even been paying attention to it. Oh my. I don't know if I would buy a PS5 just to wow. Okay, yeah. The protagonist model is definitely extremely anatomically correct. I wonder if they perfected their jiggle physics on her. Oh my, that's crazy. Good, you avoided a lot of controversy. Yeah, I look. I have personally steered away from console gaming as a whole, because if I'm going to spend that much money on something, I'd rather it do more than just play video games, or just play video games and Blu-ray or whatever. I mean, I don't even think PS5s have a thing for physical media anymore. I just do not see the point of spending that much money on something that's only going to play video games. If I'm going to spend that much money, I'd rather buy a PC and drop a decent video card in it so I can do whatever. That's just at the point I'm at right now. If I had the amount of surplus of money, then yeah, sure, of course, I would consider buying another gaming console. But for right now, my PS4 is the last console I've bought, and that's probably going to be the last console I buy for at least a couple of years, unless they have put out enough content on the PS5 that makes me want to buy it. like I originally bought the PS3 solely for Metal Gear Solid 4. I bought that PS4 and game combination for it. But I bought purely for that game because that was going to be that was the game I wanted on it, and then also, eventually, the Final Fantasy games were on it as well, so that gave me another reason, that I wanted the console. But now with the way things are, and games eventually coming to PC in one form or another, I'm less inclined to do it, even if I have to wait a year before I get to play it. I platinum trophied Ghost of Tsushima, but I'm also extremely interested in buying that game for PC. So long as the reviews show that they have it's been optimized for PC, they've taken enough care to make sure it performs well or decent. Hopefully it runs at 60 frames a second, because that would be a very big plus for that game. But I would consider buying it again for PC only because of the experience that I had and the amount of love and attention I felt from the game developer. But that's kind of the entire point, though. I mean, if you look at what I'm talking about right now, and you compare it to what we've been talking about, you kind of want to feel that love and appreciation and support and that amount of care and detail into the product, that you're producing for the company, right? And in so many words, you can feel that from Hololive. It's very much covered up with corporate sales pitches now, but you can still feel that from the talent. At least some of the talent. You can still feel the appreciation that they have, and the humbleness of the talent. That's that they are definitely grateful for being where they are. Now, there is something that I personally have noticed, and perhaps it's mainly because of what she has gone through, but I do feel a general sense of distance that Rika, formerly known as Mel, has had with her audience. And even though we're going on 5 months now that she hasn't been with Hololive, you still can feel a certain sense of detachment. Even though she is, extremely grateful for the people that, still continue to watch her. And I think it's largely in part because, being let go from a company like she had, and she was getting a lot of opportunities that are now no longer there for her, and she has to do everything on her own now. Perhaps it's she's not able to give as much time, and consideration for the people that support her. But you can still feel the general sense that she does appreciate the people that do show up and watch her. So I don't think it's completely dissolved, or that she has been dismissive of her audience. But I tend to lean more towards people who give that kind of impression to me, where they it does feel like they genuinely care and appreciate the people that come to watch them. And you don't feel that in a lot of senses with the talent from Niji Sanji. Some of them do, but not, but most of them, at least from my impressions, most of them, look at it as a 2 to 5 hour window where they're obligated to do something, and then that's it. You don't really feel like they have invested any part of themselves more than what they have into what they're doing. Some of them do play up their character extremely well, to fall in line with their backstory, but you don't necessarily feel the love coming out of any color like you do with Hololive. But that's just my impression of it. Beavers, welcome to the chat. Sony catering to family. That's why they fear the power of the angry American carrot. Asking to cancel Sony. Yes. The cancel culture, for what it's worth, the cancel culture is still around and in full effect, though. There are several new studies that have been released in recent weeks that have shown that at least the younger male population are starting to turn on that kind of person, as women. And here's how the study went. Okay, the two studies I saw were that today's teenage and young adult women are more feminists than they were decades ago, and B, today's teenage and young adult men are increasingly becoming detached towards the feminist movement because they are feeling marginalized because of said movement. And there's always going to be a power struggle there. I mean, and then you throw a lot of the other stuff in there as well that just kind of makes the whole quagmire even more murky. And I don't know what the answer is to all that, but what I will say is, with all the fallout that did come with Naughty Dog and The Last of Us Part 2, and everything else that came from that, and the fact that The Last of Us Part 2, they sided with them and they sided with Naughty Dog, yet Ghost of Tsushima continued to outsell and outperform the game that they decided to back. Really gave the wrong impression towards a lot of gamers, and that really kind of turned them off from wanting to buy PlayStations, if for nothing else. They ended up buying them in order to resell them at a high price, and then once the price came down and stabilized, then they went out and bought one for themselves at a discount price. But I try not to dive too deeply into those subjects, because there is some circumstances that apply to people that are very specific, whether it be because of the way that they were brought up, or the way that they grew up, or their experiences, what have you. Some of it can be traced back to trauma that has happened in their past life. Some of it can be cultural or influential type things because of the people that they are around. I can have an opinion. I think this is the biggest point. I can have an opinion, and I'm allowed to have my opinion, and whether or not you or anyone else agrees with that opinion, that's up to you. However, the moment that you try to force me to have the same opinion as you, and I don't, does not discount the fact that I am entitled to my own opinion. And B, it does not mean that your opinion is any less valid than my opinion. That's why we're designed to have individual thought. Because if we were all designed to have one hive mind, and set of thought patterns, or behavioralisms that are supposed to be uniformly done, we wouldn't have evolved, or however you want to put it, to have individual thought, because that would be counter to what evolution supposedly dictated, and that we all are supposed to be one way or the other. That's my opinion. The Hololive community is very strong. Maybe that's the perk of choosing Hololive as a form of job and place to belong. Leave a stamp behind on the hearts and minds of people. Yeah, that is extremely true. The Hololive universe and the Hololive fandom is truly unique, and maybe unique to a fault. Where the fandom themselves are highly protective of their talent, and they are also very passionate about the people that they choose to support. And if you look at, like, now, for example, with everything that has happened with Miki and Nico, excuse me, I still see people who are or have been around to support her since her Rushia days. And I still see people who are, pop up in her Twitch casting streams or her YouTube streams or what have you. And they're people who have been with her for a long time. Same thing with people who have supported Rika or Mel now. They are very intent on supporting her, through all the stuff that's happened with her recently, and her adjusting to the life beyond Hololive. But then even you can even look at the way that the fandom is now with the current talent. There is a lot to be said with how that talent conducts themselves, those fans conduct themselves with the talent that they support, whether it be with their Hololive persona or their alternate persona. They are extremely passionate about it, and I think that's a good thing, to be honest. Because if you're able to invest in somebody and have the ability to feel some kind of reward that comes to you either from your giving or from the person appreciating you being there for them. That's what it's all about. I've said this before, time and time and time again, and I'll say it until until the day I die. Okay. And I, you know, hey, I wanted to mute the music for a little bit. Look, I'm gonna be very real. I'm gonna be extremely real right now. Okay. One of the things that I will always tell somebody, and this goes for anything, okay? This goes with the VTuber that you're supporting. This goes for the pet that you may or may not have. This goes to, the family that you may or may not have. The friends that you have. The organizations that you have. All of these things. All right. Love it when you love something and you love somebody or something or some object or whatever. Love is always about giving. All right. And I'm not saying that you have to give money or give whatever to another person. Just showing up to a streamer when they are broadcasting. You're giving of your time. At least you're giving something to them. You're showing them that support. That's what love is towards anybody out there. Right? Love is always about giving. When I see VTubers and streamers out there who make it about them and what you give them, that doesn't mean that they love you. All right? It doesn't mean that they love you in return or that they appreciate you in return. All right? The fact that you have people out there who are grateful for the amount of time and money spent on them, that is them returning your love and affection. All right? Because love is always about giving. What you are given and what you are given and what you feel when you give to somebody that you care about and that you love. That is what love is. People have always asked me, why are you so broken up about so and so? Why are you so down about I just realized it had been over a year and a half, right? A year and a half since my Emoto graduated. And it's been a year and a half since I played Splatoon 3, because that was the game I always played with her. And I just can't pick it up. It still hurts. It still hurts that she's not there. All right? But the time that she spent with me when we did play together, I really treasured and enjoyed it, and I expressed it to her. She expressed it back to me that she really enjoyed the time that we spent together, and we talked off stream about different stuff, and the different things that we played with each other. You see that with the girls in Hololive. You really do. You see that kind of kinship and bonding with the girls in the hall. You don't see that nearly as much in Niji Sanji. And I think that really needs to change. If anything else, I think that needs to change. Because if you at least have some sort of kinship among each other, that's why I appreciate Hololive doing their generations, because when they do their generations and they do their group debuts, those 5 or 6 people have been with each other behind the scenes for several months, getting to know each other, learning each other's, quirks, that, find what works best when you're talking to them. You start figuring that person out. And then that kind of kinship carries on through debut and into the years that they spend with each other. The kinship that like Roboco has with some people who aren't with Hololive anymore is I did not know they even existed, that there was a friendship and a connection between those people until one day she showed up on Kason stream. Kason had several people over, and Kason had two Hololive people there. One of them was Roboco. The other one was Choco Sensei. I had no idea that the three of them hung out at any point in time, but she showed up at her door, and they started drinking sake together, and they were off collabing, and they were eating sushi while drinking sake together. And I'm sitting here going, I did not know that this was a thing, and that's what you don't have. At least I don't see, and I never see anybody talk about it. That kind of connection between people in the generations of Niji Sanji, and I feel like it's partly because it's so disjointed and kind of cobbled together that there is no actual organization or incentive for people to maybe get to know each other. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and that it's more like that with the people I haven't watched or I never catch or something. But the people I do catch, it just kind of feels like everyone does their own thing for several hours, and then that's it. Callie also does off collab with Kate. Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing, right? It's amazing. You have that one person that is kind of like that lightning rod, or maybe the better way of putting it is you have that one person that acts as a beacon, as kind of like a lighthouse. And regardless of where you are, that person is still going to be there. And you can always, you always know what direction to go at by setting yourself by what they're doing. And see, this is why I think, I know Kason can be highly, she's not controversial as much as, let's say, a free spirit, but that's part of the beauty of what she is. She allows people like me to exist, because if it wasn't for her encouragement towards, she told the girls of Myth, if it's not working for you, just be yourself, and don't allow people don't allow people to dictate that you can't be yourself, right? Be true to who you are. That's exactly what her message was. And I'm sitting here looking at Kason, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, here's this girl, and of course she's younger than me, right? But still, here's this girl who is giving sagely advice to all of the people who are her koais, including myself, even though I should know some of the stuff that she's already, she tells them, or she told them in the past. And to allow somebody of her talent, and yes, I'm saying that as somebody of her talent to be released by Hololive tells me two things. Number one, Kei-san was too big for the company she was working for. And number two, the company she was working for was holding her back from doing the things that she wanted to do. All right. Now, if I were in Salin's position, and this is where I'm leading with this, if I was in her position and I was working for Niji Sanji and I was having all these difficulties and I was having to supposedly spend 200 grand of my own money on things that I was doing for being, a streamer working for that company, if these were if all these things were true, why didn't she do what Kei-san did and leave? Because let's be honest, Kei-san left, controversial, yet she has thrived in spite of the controversy. Right? This is dramatically different than what Doki Bird is. Doki Bird was held up and kept in the spotlight by these two dumbasses. One of them's supposed to be a lawyer. The other one sits here and spins everything he says out of his mouth. And they advocated for her, and they kept the controversy going to keep her in the spotlight so she could continue to gain support. Did Kei-san do that? Hell no. Kei-san didn't have to do that. Kei-san was able to leave on her own terms. She dictated her own terms. She left on her own terms. She left with her head held high. And she's continued to thrive because of it. But now every time I see Doki Bird, all I see are those two jokers standing behind her, holding her up, and the controversy that she was involved in because of all the drama that was involved with her. I can look at Kei-san and look beyond the drama because she loved herself and she loved the people that supported her too much to make the drama what she was. Kei-san rose above the drama and said, "I'm going to be who I want to be. I'm going to do I'm going to do what I want to do. Nobody's going to stop me. If you want some of this, if you want to come along for the ride, saddle up, because this is the way I'm going. Don't be left behind. And if you can't do it now, okay, and you want to meet down the line, that's fine. If you want to go your own way, that's fine." But that's why that is why people continue to gravitate towards her, because she's being true to herself and she's being true to her fans. And she's not making the drama, she's not making herself be about the drama. She's making herself being who she is and being true to herself. And that is the lesson that every single person, every single VTuber out there, whether you're big or small, or you're working for a company or you're not working for a company, or that you feel like the company is just doing you wrong, doing you dirty. Yeah, why do you spend $200,000 of your own money? When you're supposed to be, work. This company is supposed to help you be successful. Why spend that much money? I don't know. Did anyone collaborate with Miki Nico? Miki Nico has gotten together with K-Sun. She has not. I don't believe she's done any off collabs with her. As far as I remember, as far as I can think, I believe there was only one instance when Miki Nico was streaming with other people, and that was when she signed with that voice talent agency, and she did do like a 3-person panel with 2 other people from that agency. But other than that, and I believe she participated in I want to say she participated in an Apex collab at one point, but by and large, I believe Miki Nico is trying to stay away from, connecting with other people, because she doesn't want it to be perceived as like, she doesn't want to bring negative backlash towards them. But then on the flip side, she doesn't, she's trying to, keep that image of her being single. Yeah, after what happened with her, the whole debacle with her and Mafu. She seems really intent on being that way. In fact, I caught the tail end of her ranting the other day on Twitcasting, because she was if I wish I would have caught the beginning of it, but I woke up late, so I only caught like the last, I think, like half hour of it. But there were people who were still ranting at her and sending her very colorful emails and messages telling her to, herself, and, telling her to be 6 feet under, which is unfortunate. Did anyone collab with Miki and Nico from Hall Life? No. I have not personally seen or heard her ever collabing with anybody from Hall Life post termination. In fact, I believe that the only people that I've heard or seen her even mention were Choco Sensei and there was one person that did drop by her place at one point, but I can't remember who it was. But by and large, yeah, I don't I haven't heard anybody be that way, and to be honestly, it's sad, because if we look at the way each company is conducting themselves, one company seems to be all about hiring the most amount of talent they have, and who really cares if they get along with each other or not. That's the impression I get with Niji Sunji Ian. And then you have another, the other company that carefully curates their talent and their talent's applications, and it feels like they look at the available talent that have applied and say, okay, which personalities what do we think will fit best with each other to make a a solid team. And they look at it that way, and they say, okay, this is this is what we want. This is the way we want to lean this thing, and then that's what they hire. I think that the hiring strategy is definitely different. And it feels like Niji Sanji looks at each talent as basically, each talent is a brand within their umbrella, and they only look at them as individuals rather than saying, okay, which one of these people can we hire and will work just as well together as when they're individuals. You don't get that feeling with Indie Color or with Hololive. You don't get that feeling with them, and that's what makes it really unique. So I'm gonna rewind just a little bit here, because if you look at Hololive over the past year, I believe it was somewhere. Yeah, I believe it was around April, at the start of their new physical year. In April, all the way through till about August, September, there was a dramatic push of Hololive encouraging the EN branch to cross over and work with some of the JP branch. Like you saw Mel play Apex with Ame. We saw Roboco collaborating with some people from, I believe it was Myth. And that was just some of the people that I managed to catch. There was a huge push to try to see how well intergeneration people would respond to collaborating with each other. And this was during the time where all of a sudden everyone from Hololive Myth was doing a crash course in how to communicate in Japanese, because it felt like they were being forced to learn Japanese, because you are going to be working with your JP senpais, so you better learn how to communicate with them. That's the way it kind of felt, and it largely was successful. It largely, that it was, to me, it seemed like they were experimenting with those kind of crossovers, because they wanted to know, just how well the JP branch would work with the EN branch if they were forced into a situation where they had to spend hours communicating with each other. And I mean, you just really have to, if you want to know just how well that kind of crossovers are, look at how many clips there were of Fuamoko when they were doing their bow bow thing, and Toa and Matsuri were like, Matsuri was like, oh, that's kawaii, and Toa was like, bleh. I mean, that was probably like the moment where I felt, I was like, okay, this is a mitigated success of crossover, between generations. You don't get that kind of stuff in Niji Sanji. I mean, you get there are times where it does seem like everybody in Niji Sanji, gets the company-wide email that, don't schedule anything for this day because we're going to have a big get-together type thing, and we're all going to participate in some kind of tournament or something like that. I do see, like, at times there are, it seems like there's like a company-wide call to do something, but it feels so forced. I don't know how else to explain it. It feels extremely forced, and I think it's because by and large, it always feels like people are an island to themselves. They clock in, they do their amount of time that they are supposed to do it as part of their persona, and then they clock out, and that's it. And it's really disappointing. It really is. I mean, Pamu, by and large, Pamu does still feel like who she is, despite her not being Pamu anymore. She does largely still feel like who she was, was before she went back to who she was, or who she is now, rather. But I don't know. I don't know what the fix would be for Niji Sanji En. But if I were to look at it in my way, I would take stock of where everything is at, right? And then, gosh, I don't know. It feels like it's so scattered that there's no harmony with it. There's no like center. I don't feel enough synergy between talent to be able to even say, okay, I know for a fact that these people work well with each other. Because I never see it. I mean, I've seen more people of the new VTuber group, Idol EN, talk and work together and do and be more of team players than anybody in Niji. That's kind of sad. You know what I'm saying? Crazy it happened to Mel of all people. Well, so we know that Mel broke the terms of her contract, right? We don't know the circumstances. We supposedly don't know the circumstances. My understanding of it was that she had that because of the amount of stress and the amount of pressure that she was feeling, she talked to somebody about what was going on with her company, what she was doing for the company, which of course is a breach of confidentiality and blah blah blah, and the breach of her terms, of her agreement. And to me, the fact that happened and the company supposedly has a wellness program in place for situations like this, either tells me either she was so troubled by what she was going through that what the company could provide her wasn't of any help, or, and this is what I believe, that she was so stubborn that she felt like she didn't need, she couldn't go through the company, and she tried to do it on her own. And I think the latter is more fitting of her personality, because I know for a fact that she always takes on way too much, and that she always tries to do it herself, and that she's a perfectionist, and that, you know, she doesn't stop even when, you know, she's told to stop, you know. And unfortunately for her, you know, she was caught, or, you know, she had whatever happened, you know. Now, whether or not, you know, that narrative is actually true, I don't know. I tried to reach out to her just like I reached out to Miki and Nico. She has never responded to me. I never expect them to respond to me. I just send them a message, and if they reply, they reply. You know, it's like, you know, Miki and Nico. Like, out of all the messages I've sent to her, she's only replied to maybe about 4 or 5. And that's fine. I don't expect them to respond, but I do at least want to put out my support towards them and let them know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm not just as a person, but as a VTuber and somebody who at least tries to talk about things rationally without trying to spin it into a narrative that is totally untrue, Picora only talked about it on her end, but that's gonna be hard to find. Yeah. I see, off collab, likely Picora with, yeah, I don't think that the girls from well, let me take that back. I do believe that the girls from Hall Live do still regularly communicate with the girls that are not part of Hall Live anymore. I know, like, I do know that Choco Sensei has gotten together with Miki Nico several times over the past few years. I know that for a fact. Mel, on the other hand, she always kind of seemed to be like an island to herself, which was really kind of sad. But I think it was in part because of all the stuff that happened to her coming into Hall Live. She was not able to properly situate herself within the brand itself, and kind of feel that inclusivity until year 3, because of all the stuff that happened to her with the supposed stalkers, that the people that were harassing her, those types of things. So, which I felt it was really kind of sad, towards her, because she never had the opportunity to really hit the ground and find her footing and be part of a group like the rest of the girls were. Now, Hall Life Fantasy, they by and large tried to include her in a lot of things, as they were able to, but she was never officially part of that group. But I know, Rushia and Marine were they always kind of fought. Well, okay, so Marine always fought with Rushia, because Rushia was always like, I thought I was yours, and Mel was there, and she was like, yeah, but you see those, Mel has things that you don't, and I kind of like those too, I mean, that's the kind of the banter that will always happen back and forth. But you never really saw that kind of connection with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure talent share stuff with their husbands and family members. How, I don't know how Mel got caught. That was something that I tried multiple times to try to find an answer to, and all I hear, all I've seen and heard is hearsay. And the hearsay I heard was that she confided in somebody who was not part of Hololive and not part of Cover Core, and that person ended up sharing that information online, either intentionally or inadvertently, and then it got back to, to Hololive somehow. That's all I've heard. But I mean, like, if I were to look at, and let's see here. Niji Sanji. Okay, so we will take that down. Okay, so if we look at, so this is the main branch, the JP branch, and they are, I mean, gosh. Has the main branch ever had a graduation? It kind of looks like the main branch has never had a graduation. Oh, okay. They have it separated like that. Okay. Duh. Okay. Yeah, I need to read. Okay, yeah, so there has been... Okay, so this is everybody that's graduated from Nijisanji JP, which is a fair amount of people, despite... Okay, Indonesia and Korean branches merged in 2012, so I would assume that a lot of these people did have to deal with that branch. See, there is, I mean, of course, there's not nearly as many people in EN as the JP branch, but other than Ilera and Ike and Vox, the only reason why I know these three names in the same sentence is because they were the three people that talked about things after Doki Birth. I have never seen any of these names work with each other. It doesn't mean that they haven't, but I know that they at some point tried to like do groups like this group here, Seeds, but it just kept I don't see the members here. When I look at the members here, I don't look at, I can't see them and do a callback to any particular group, or generation or anything with, because all I see are individual. This is the thing. All I see are individuals here. I have there's absolutely no reason why I look at what any one of them and say, oh yeah, they're part of blank, they're part of this group, they're part of that group, or they're part of this generation. Like, you can tell me, it's, so how you like Okayu? I'm like, oh yeah, Okayu is, she's a great part of Holo Gamers, I love watching her with everyone in Hollow Gamers, that kind of thing, or who's your favorite person in the EN branch? Oh, that's gotta be Fuamoko. Fuamoko. She, they have their group together, and I've followed them since before they were in Hall Live, and I mean, I just can't. I just don't. I haven't been able to make any kind of real connection with anybody on Niji Sanji, and it just feels very corporate. It feels very corporate and very sterile. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I really don't. I just hope that we'll see it, and I'm not gonna make it a secret. If I'm able to record a proper audition video the way I want it to be, the way I want to do it, I mean, I got nothing to lose, just to throw my application in there into Niji, just to say, hey, look, I can't sing, but I can stand here and ramble for 3 hours, and maybe hopefully kind of hold an audience, and I could have people make fun of me for with my gaming skills for hours on end, but I really want to throw out the idea that okay, you guys have an EN branch, okay, you have this perception by and large that 3 or 4 people are the ones that are calling all the shots for the EN branch. So why not deflect some of that that kind of negative attention and have somebody who actually is able to speak on behalf of the EN branch and be able to actually talk to your audience rather than just trot people out in front of everybody and give kind of a very corporate, very sterile type of answer or statement towards the people. I mean, hell, I can sit there and talk serious, talk casual, and still sell some of the things that they want to push out there with either merchandise or with activities that are going to happen. I'm not saying that I want to be like Achan, but I mean she has a certain amount of freedom to talk about certain things, even if she can't dive into explicit type of detail about what's going on. She still is able to go out there and talk. I mean, there's plenty of things that I can do with were I in a position to be able to be that kind of person that facilitates that kind of stuff that's going on with the company versus what the company is trying to tell people out there, instead of just issuing generic type of statements. I mean, I that's the kind of thing I were I to put in an application and audition to them, that would be the kind of thing I'd push out there, because I mean that's the only kind of good thing I can actually do. But anyways, so let's wrap it up here because it is going on 3 hours now, and I do want to wake up tomorrow morning to be there and support with some of the people that I watch every morning, or most every morning, anyways. We will keep an eye out on this. Once again, there are some key things that we want to keep an eye out for. First is the US dollar to yen currency exchange here. It looks like after correcting itself here with whatever the Bank of Japan did, it is slowly working its way back up here. So as long as it doesn't crack 160 again, we probably won't see any immediate or further correction issued by the Bank of Japan. But I'm not the Bank of Japan, so who knows, right? But should the Bank of Japan interfere further with the yen continuing to lose value, that is only well, let's see here. There's a definite split there. If the Bank of Japan does interfere further, we could see a lot more volatility with cover and with any color, at least until the financial reports come in. So, May 13th is the first financial report coming in from Cover Corp. And then I believe in June, Any Color will be giving their annual report, either June or July. It depends on whether or not they release their report in the same month as when it ends, or whether or not they hold off till the next month. So it'll be June or July. So Any Color's financials will probably be either the nail in the coffin or the silver bullet that shoots the prices back up. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, like I've said before, contrary to what the popular myth is, these three people have had absolutely, positively, 100% no bearing on the price or value of the company of Any Color. Right? It all started with the stock split. That was the first drop. Continuing rise of the dollar versus the yen. That was the second thing. The third thing was the fact that the Bank of Japan changed interest rates, which made a lot of people sell off a lot of their volatile stocks. That's part of what happens when your stock is considered to be a consumer cynical stock, which both of them are. They are they rely heavily on the business cycle and economic conditions of the time, and they can have some very significant swings in value depending on the time of year. So, and the one thing I did fail to mention was also the fact that Japan was hoping that the U.S. Treasury would implement a decrease in their percentile cut for loans. They were hoping that that would happen, so it would take the pressure off of inflation that was affecting the dollar versus the yen. But the U.S. Treasury decided not to take any actions, which was also added fuel to the fire of these stocks being sold off. So we will have to keep an eye on whether or not these stocks have hit rock bottom, or if they're going to continue to go down until their physical reports. I have a feeling that as soon as the reports come out for Cover Core, we will definitely see both of them shoot up. And so long as Any Color is able to follow that up with another positive report, we will likely see both of their stocks continue to rise through December. And then after December, we'll once again see another drop in their stock prices. But that also depends on whether or not the markets continue to go the way they're going. One last thing, we do and we have seen the stocks in the U.S. stock market, especially in the tech center, make big gains that have affected almost every single sector. So I think that there is an expectation here that everything's in place for this to rebound. It's just a matter of finding out whether or not the companies can report that profit that they're waiting for. So it certainly doesn't harm the investor for these prices to keep going down, but it would be a matter of buying at the right time in order to capitalize on any improvement on the stocks themselves. So we'll see. So anyways, guys, I am going to call it a night. The Cole2T, thank you so much for dropping in. Beavers, I am glad to see you again, my friend. Thank you so much for dropping in. Umberto, thank you so much for dropping in as well. We also had several lurkers come and go. As always, I do appreciate you lurkers out there. Whether or not you comment or not, that's not a problem, but I do appreciate you guys being a part of the stream in any capacity that you're willing to be a part of. I will be trying to stream something tomorrow. I'm not quite sure what I want to stream yet. I did have I did try out Manor Lords, but it's kind of like a real-time strategy game. I'm not sure if it would necessarily be exciting for people to watch. I have actually been considering doing a Minecraft stream tomorrow, just so we can kind of wander through the Japanese server that I joined recently. And then maybe just kind of do some idle talking while I try to build something for myself. Otherwise, there are a couple other things I do want to try as well. So we will play a little bit by ear, and I will post tomorrow in the community tab and on my social what I will end up doing. If you are experiencing or enjoying Golden Week, please have a great Golden Week. If not, please have a good rest of the week. I hope everything goes well for you. Fingers crossed that my health keeps up on the plus side, because I'm still fighting something even though I'm streaming tonight. That's kind of why I'm ending early. But I do appreciate you guys that do turn out for me. It is great to talk to you guys in any capacity. So thank you so much. All right. So if sorry, my phone was buzzing. I was wondering who was sending me a message on there. Okay, so all right, guys, I gotta go. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever the case may be for you. Until then, this is Marko Yamashita signing off. Peace.